SEC women's basketball is on the air. The final Sunday in January. Texas A&M is in Nashville today off its first conference win to face Vanderbilt, still in search of its first victory in SEC play. Hi, everyone, and welcome alongside Christy Thomas-Scuddy. I'm John Brickley. Glad to have you with us here on this Sunday. Christy, let's talk about two programs whose seasons have been overshadowed by injuries. But in the case of the Aggies, Janiah Barker's return versus Georgia was as good as advertised for the freshman.
Absolutely. Janiah Barker was averaging 12 points a game for the Aggies before a wrist injury caused her to miss 10 straight games. And when she came out against UGA, she was on fire. 10 of 11 from the field. She scored at all three levels from deep. She was instant offense. She was consistent. She let the game come to her. And this young lady can get hot. And probably more importantly for the Aggies, the offense just flows so much better when Barker's on the floor.
24 points, 10 of 11 shooting, a performance that garnered SEC Freshman of the Week honors. On the other side for Vanderbilt, you've got a 1-2 combo in the backcourt that's as good as any in this conference.
Absolutely. Kaija Harbison is so good in transition, and when she can get the majority of her points that way, this offense just goes. When she gets it downhill, very difficult to stop. And Marnell Gerard, her playmate, is so good in the half court. Vanderbilt runs her off of so many screens. She's so good from deep, shooting over 40% from three on the season. And John, probably more importantly, is averaging almost 18.5 points over the last 5 games for Vanderbilt.
Both these transfers in veteran leadership roles. Harbison's second in the conference in scoring, while Gerard right now is number 1 in made threes in SEC play. Two teams that have had much needed rest coming into this matchup, a week off to rest and recuperate heading into this matchup here this afternoon. Barker is going to be coming off the bench in this game for Texas A&M. Officials today, Brian Garland, Bill Lawrence, and Carla Fountain, and it is the Aggies that control the opening tip.
And so for Vanderbilt, they'll run some matchup zone, but expect a lot of man-to-man today. The area I'm really focused on is how do they defend the on-ball screen action of Texas A&M.
KK Green, strong to the hoop, and she has been on fire over the last 3 games for Texas A&M, getting the Aggies on the board. For Vanderbilt, coming in 9-12, 0-7 in SEC play. First time since the 2016-2017 season that they started off 0-7 in the conference. A 3 by freshman Jada Brown off the mark, and there is Sydney Bowles with the rebound.
And that's the end of the floor I'm eager to see today. Texas A&M's defense that's been so good throughout SEC play against Vanderbilt's offense.
A steal takeaway by Harbison, who goes right in for the layup. Unfortunately, can't make it. A miscue on the opportunity for the grad transfer from St. Louis.
And that's when Harbison's been so good, just defensively creating her own offense by picking the pocket. Unfortunate that Vanderbilt couldn't convert there.
Green on the wing, left open is Kindred. And a foul afterwards, and over the back call against the Aggies. Texas A&M 6-12 on the season, 1-7 in conference play, picking up that win over Georgia.
And John, you see this Princeton-style offense from Vanderbilt. They're a team that their pace depends on the game plan. We've seen them get really up-tempo. We've seen them really slow it down. You see a little mix of that right now. If they can get out early in transition and score, we've already seen them trying to pick it up.
And outside of Gerard and Harbison, Shea Ralph mentioning this week that Sasha Washington has to be that third scoring option for Vanderbilt. Would like to see all 3 come out with strong performances in the same game.
Yeah, I mean, any coach wants to play inside out. It's just percentage basketball, and Sasha Washington has been getting those touches. She just has to finish consistently.
Sydney Bowles, the freshman star, one of the top recruiting classes for Texas A&M, with her 28th made 3 of the season, as the Aggies have built up an early 5-0 lead on Vanderbilt. Bowles committing the foul. That'll be the second team foul against the Aggies. As Yabrian Chambers, along with Jada Brown, take a seat for Vanderbilt. A Vanderbilt team that's been decimated by injuries even before the start of the season. And so, Christy, they've been limited to just 8 active players on the roster. Harbison, no on the 3 as Washington tried to grab the loose rebound. But it's Texas A&M with possession.
And, I mean, John, you hit it on the head. It is so hard when you know what you can be, and yet you're limited by the injuries, because that's not just in game action. That's in practice, and that's what Shea Ralph just kept saying. It was nice to have this bye because we could focus on ourselves. We could work on the things that we needed to, and she said a lot of it was offensive execution, but more importantly, it was defense. Our defense needs to be better.
There's a look at Shea Ralph in year number 2. Led this program a season ago to the 3rd round of the WNIT, and she was very honest with us in our conversations with her yesterday, saying that she's never been more uncomfortable, and she is right there with this team in the foxhole.
Well, and by uncomfortable, I think losing's personal. At least it was for me as a coach, and I think it is for any coach. And what I interpreted when she said she's uncomfortable is she just wants her players to find success. And most people will measure that by wins. And this is a team that I have watched from day one in terms of the season. They had a big win against Columbia that got my attention in the non-conference schedule, but the injuries have taken its toll. But what I have seen is a group of players who every day have gotten better individually as well as a team. It's just the SEC schedule can be a gauntlet, and that's what has really hurt them here recently.
They started off with LSU, Ole Miss, Tennessee, South Carolina, and Arkansas, which they lost at the buzzer. They've had struggles so far today, 0 of 4 from the field to start.
And we can talk about the injuries for Texas A&M as well, but the one consistent for them was defense. They made you play ugly. They're going to take away that first or second option. Can you be mature enough on the offensive end to execute?
And what a play by Green, the junior out of Chicago, Illinois. Has 4 early points and a 7-0 run to open up this game for Texas A&M.
And when I use the term maturity, that's something I've seen growth in KK Green. Is her maturity from an offensive perspective. I thought forced a lot of shots early in SEC play, now allowing things to come to her, and she's just been dynamic for the Aggies.
Jada Malone, 13 in maroon, who just picked up her 2nd foul. Harbison, meanwhile, we touched upon it, 2nd in the SEC in scoring, was honored before the game with head coach Shea Ralph, getting over 2,000 career points, did so against South Carolina. Not many people could have that on the mantle at home to say that they scored 2,000 points in a game against South Carolina.
I can't say enough about what this young lady has brought to Nashville. Her offense, she's just a playmaker. You saw just how dynamic she was with that last finish.
And comes up with the steal. Rod left open for 3, no. And the rebound taken down by Kidred. Texas A&M, on the other hand, right now is playing with 10 deep. And so for Texas A&M, first chance we get to see 2 in maroon, that is Janiah Barker, strong to the basket and draws the offensive foul.
John, I told you I was eager to see the screen on the ball defense of Vanderbilt. He had let them down here in recent games. This time, though, rotation is there from the initial trap. Barker just takes it one dribble too many and gets called for that charge.
3 turnovers in the early going for the Aggies. Again, for Barker, first game since November 30th versus Kansas. Had missed 10 games due to the fractured wrist in her shooting hand. But what an impact she had in the victory over Georgia. 24 points on 10 of 11 shooting, and really igniting with a jolt of energy for this program. Joni Taylor, first season for Texas A&M as the head coach, taking over for the Hall of Famer Gary Blair. Last year, in her 7 seasons with Georgia, wrapped it up with an SEC Coach of the Year honor.
And, John, I can't say enough great things about Joni Taylor. And for both these coaches, I have watched their sideline demeanor during really tough stretches. They are both teachers. They have both been very patient with their players. And I think it's that teaching that they have done that's allowed these players to continue to develop during a really tough stretch of SEC play.
Barker draws the triple team as Sydney Bowles left open from the corner for three. What a start for the freshman, 6 points, and it's a 5-point lead for the Aggies.
I guarantee you Sydney Bowles might be one of the most ecstatic players to have Barker and Hilton back on the floor with her, because this is a three-point shooter that was forced to try to create off the bounce while they were on the bench injured, and now she can spot up and knock them down.
Harbison with an answer. She's got 5 of the first 7 for Vanderbilt. Leah Patty bringing it up, 32 in maroon, who had a career-high 11 assists versus Georgia. The facilitator that Joni Taylor said that she had asked Patty, the transfer from Ohio State, to embrace that role, and did so in a major way. Kindred with a nice spot-up jumper.
Kindred's a young player who I just think has gotten better and better as the season has gone. Reads screens extremely well. That time came off that down screen and knocked it down.
Aggies 5 of 7 to begin this game. Hot on the floor. Loose inside, and a takeaway leads to a turnover, the first for Vanderbilt in this game. Green at the point. Has taken on that role, been the starter over the last 10 games for Texas A&M. Barker with a defender in her face, off the mark on the three. Bella Chance comes down with the rebound.
That's a shot by Barker. I would have loved to see her give Patty the pass down low, take advantage of Patty's height advantage on the block.
Good phonetic pace to this game. Allen spots up for three, knocks it down, and we'll have a chance for the rare but possible 4-point play. Leads us to a timeout. Vanderbilt making an early charge, down by 2 to Texas A&M. Let's flash back to the previous meeting between Texas A&M and Vanderbilt. Would be the final game in the Hall of Fame career of Gary Blair. First round of the SEC tournament that was highlighted by the triple-double from Jordan Cambridge for the Doors. They would go on to win this game, eventually lose to Florida by 1 point in the second round. But what a performance by Cambridge as they were able to advance, eventually fell in the third round of the WNIT. And Christy, there is some significance with Cambridge because she is one of 3 key players not on the floor this year for Vanderbilt. All 3 of these players suffered injuries before the season even started for Shea Ralph.
Yeah, I mean, consecutive weeks a player went down for Shea Ralph and her staff. But what I see when I look at this graphic is that is 30 points that Shea Ralph no longer has at her disposal. And that just makes that margin of error so slim for the Commodores.
And with those players off the floor, Shea Ralph has to look to different contributors. And we just saw prior to that break, Ryan Allen could be one of those off the bench.
Absolutely. You've got to be ready to score when you get the opportunity. Ryan Allen comes on the floor, comes off, up and around, and realizes her player had sank low, pops out for 3, and more importantly, draws the foul to get that 4-point opportunity.
Allen was one of those players who saw some quality minutes against Florida a week ago because of the foul trouble that Harbison was in. Did suffer an injury in the third quarter, but she's got a chance here to complete a 4-point play and get Vanderbilt within 1.
And Allen's a 3-point shooter. I mean, that was her 27th make on the season. So this is something Texas A&M's going to have to figure out in terms of how they're going to defend. If they're going to keep Patty on her, I imagine Allen's going to keep popping out for three.
Can't convert on the free throw. Aggies, meanwhile, the second youngest team in the SEC. They do have the number 3 recruiting class from 2022 on the floor. That includes Hilton, Bowles, and Barker.
And, John, I love the defensive scheme by Vanderbilt so far. Whether it's been a make or a miss, you've seen them extend into that full court pressure. Why? I think they know they can't match up in the half court against A&M due to the lack of size. So Shea Ralph's trying to limit the amount of time that A&M can work and execute a half court offense. And so far it's helped.
And to your point, they only have one player that is taller than 6'1", and that is Sasha Washington. So rebounding, boxing out has been a major issue of concern for Shea Ralph. As a turnover goes back to Vanderbilt as Barker just picked up her second foul.
I mean, I think we all are expecting Barker just to come off and build on what she did last weekend. But, I mean, that was a perfect storm for her coming out against that 3-2 matchup with Georgia, her hometown state school. And so I think, again, you got to remember, Barker's a freshman. This is a young team for Texas A&M. They have not won on the road yet. So this is a big challenge for the Aggies here this afternoon.
She was limited because of the restriction of the injury to 21 minutes versus Georgia. Right now, 7 minutes, but on the bench with those 2 fouls. Let's see if Vanderbilt can somehow take advantage of the absence of Barker. Allen spotting up long range. And coming in is Maya Petticord, the freshman out of Detroit, Michigan, who's seeing her first action of the game for the Aggies.
Well, the scouting report on Petticord has to be, don't let her get hot. Because when this young lady sees one shot go down, they call her money because more is coming.
What a strong move and a right-hand finish by Aaliyah Patty, one of the few veterans on this team, gets her first 2 points. And
John,
it's a 14-10 lead for Texas A&M.
Excuse me. You spoke of Patty really being a selfless player, and that's what I've seen throughout this season for her. The most veteran player. Some games she's needed to shoot more. She's stepped up to the occasion. Some games she has needed to be that defensive stalwart down low or rebounder. She has been willing to do whatever Joni Taylor and her staff has asked of her this season.
Foul trouble becoming a situation for Texas A&M in this first quarter. And again, the injuries have been the biggest issue this season for Joni Taylor's club. You've got Barker and Hilton both back for a second time after lengthy stints with their injuries. Tahara Jones we're going to also see in action today, as well as Sydney Roby, who's been out because of a lateral meniscus.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see Jones back on the floor right now. She missed the last 6 games with a back injury, so it's got to feel crazy good for the Aggies right now to have 10 players and to actually be able to use the bench right now.
There was a point in the conversations with Joni Taylor that she said there's part of her that's going to miss having that 7-player rotation. Yes, you're limited, but you can simplify things a lot more. But in this first quarter, Christy, keep in mind, foul trouble's been an issue. 3 players, Bowles, Barker, and Malone, all have 2 fouls for the Aggies.
And some of it might be they feel a little bit too much freedom defensively, but I think a lot of it's also give Vanderbilt credit. They have boxed out. We've seen some fouls on rebounds. We've seen some fouls in the half court. Vanderbilt is a team that you can tell looks really refreshed from that bye week.
Washington lost the handle out of bounds. Possession to Texas A&M.
Well, I've talked a lot about Texas A&M's defense. It's not about steals. It's not just about limiting you. It is about rim protection as well. And here you see Aaliyah Patty just walling up. Sasha Washington not having anything to do with the ball.
Patty leads this team in rebounds and blocks. As an offense in this first quarter, could have asked for a better start for Texas A&M, shooting 64% from the field, despite the foul trouble to a couple of key players. Jones on the court for the first time, dealing with that back injury. Floater in the lane, knocked down, and KK Green is having herself a strong first quarter performance. On the other end, Petticourt called for the foul. That is going to be her first. That is now the ninth team foul of this first quarter, Christy.
Well, and this is something for A&M on the season. As good as they have been in the half court, limiting their opponents to under 60 points a game, they've been putting their opponents on the free throw line. On the season, opponents are averaging 20 points of those 60 a game. So it's a third that they are allowing their opponents to get freely at the free throw line. They've got to clean that up and force Vanderbilt to score in the half court offense.
A chance missing on that last free throw. That's been a strength for Vanderbilt, second in the conference in free throw percentage. About a 5 seconds difference between game clock and shot clock. Green with the right hand finish, unable to convert, out of bounds to Vanderbilt, who can hold for the final possession of this first quarter.
Yeah, and I like the substitution. Get Allen in. I'm going to expect maybe a little pick and pop action with her and Harbison. Here, Harbison trying to get downhill. If the post helps, expect Allen to pop out and shoot that three.
This should come as no surprise to Vanderbilt fans. They know how punchy the doors can be in the first quarter. Harbison with the crossover dribble. Foul. As Harbison will go to the free throw line, and the fouls continue to mount up in this first quarter for the Aggies.
And the number one rule is you never foul a jump shooter. And that one almost looked clean, to be honest with you. I thought KK Green got ball on that one.
10 first quarter team fouls for Texas A&M as Harbison to the free throw line. Mentioned second in the SEC in scoring. She came over from St. Louis, Christy, where she was the program's second all-time leading scorer. A valuable piece to the puzzle for Shea Ralph. Green in the closing seconds, unable to get a shot off, and a good first quarter for both sides. Takes us to the end of the first quarter. Texas A&M looking for back-to-back conference wins for the Both Joni Taylor and Shea Ralph have a common thread in their coaching careers. Both have coached under Hall of Fame coaches. Joni Taylor did so under our former colleague here at ESPN, Andy Landers, and for Shea Ralph, did so in a run under Gino Auriemma, where she won 6 national championships with the UConn Huskies, and both have been able to provide different impacts to their respective teams, Christy.
Absolutely, and I mean, when you talk about Shea Ralph, I'm also going to throw in Chris Daly that you're able to learn under for her. But as a player and as a coach, just well documented everything Shea was able to accomplish at UConn. For Joni Taylor, I mean, you talk about a Hall of Fame path for Joni. Started as a player under Rick Moody at Alabama, then went to La Tech and learned under Leon Barmore, then to LSU under Van Chancellor, and then obviously to Andy Landers. I mean, she has known nothing but success in terms of the great mentors that she has been surrounded by throughout her career.
And by the way, also succeeding, a Hall of Famer in Gary Blair here at Texas A&M. And on the flip side, for Coach Ralph, she has said that she still keeps in touch with Gino from time to time, saying that his philosophy and her philosophy are mirror images of one another, not going to change their approach, going to let the players figure it out on the court. As second quarter underway, Harbison and Vanderbilt still looking for their first SEC win of the season after an 0-7 start to conference play. Allen gives it off to Washington. 15-foot jumper knocks down for the sophomore.
Well, we've talked about how Vanderbilt's undersized, but what I like is they're using what may be a disadvantage to their advantage. The smaller post are stepping out away from the basket and looking for their shots here in this game.
Patty with the strong drive, count it, and the foul for the transfer from Ohio State.
Aaliyah Patty is a three-level scorer in and of herself. She can post up, she can knock down the three, and as we see, she can get by defenders. There, Allen just bodies her up. Great decision by Patty to continue to get to the rim and draw that foul.
Allen called for her second foul. Patty putting up impressive numbers. 7.5 points per game, 7.5 rebounds as she completes the three-point play. The only player on this roster that has played in over 100 career games for Texas A&M. Loose ball, a fight for it, and taken away. There's Jones right in the thick of things for the Aggies. Tanea Hilton, 3 in maroon, making her first appearance off the bench for Joni Taylor.
Yeah, I'm eager to see how Hilton responds today. Had a lot of unforced turnovers against UGA this past Sunday. This is a young lady who's a dynamic playmaker for the Aggies.
First shot goes down for Hilton, who missed 8 games due to a ligament injury in her foot. Joni Taylor saying this week that a little bit of rust and stubbornness, perhaps, versus Georgia that was credited to those 7 turnovers that she had.
Well, and the stubbornness just being she was really casual with the ball. And that's a thing as a guard, especially against a pressing team. You got to be strong with it. And that's something, again, I'm eager to see because Hilton's a young player as well. And so eager to see her growth from game one. Because, yeah, I think it's almost a new season when you talk about Barker, when you talk about Hilton, and even now for Jones, who are coming back off of this extended break from injury.
Jones, another player back from injury for the Aggies. And Kindred stepped out of bounds. And a turnover for Texas A&M.
I think this is a really pivotal time for Vanderbilt. Down 6 right now. They need to either have Girard or Harbison get a touch here in the half court. I'd like to see a shot opportunity for either one of these leading scorers for the team.
Shea Ralph mentioning that not only creating turnovers, but taking advantage of those turnovers. They forced Texas A&M into 6, but only have 2 points off those 6 turnovers. Here's Washington with a key offensive rebound. Leads to Harbison, open for 3. And Washington fighting her way through is going to get called for the over the back.
That's tough. Just great effort by Sasha Washington on the first offensive rebound. And then on the second one, I think that's just where Patty her veteran experience came into play because she knew she had Washington on her back. So she just drives back a little bit. Washington continues to pursue. Easy call for the official.
Now the issue for Shea Ralph, you lose arguably your best component in the low post with Washington on the bench with 2 fouls. Boxing out, rebounding has been an Achilles heel this year for Vanderbilt. Jones, that one rattled in and out, but there is Patty right into her hands and back up for a second chance.
When you get effort on the glass, good things happen, and sometimes it's not a matter of you even grabbing it, it's just keeping it alive, and that's what Texas A&M was able to do on that last possession.
Foul against Demi Washington, the senior, seeing her first action. A&M controlling the boards to this point, a +7 advantage in rebounding. Have stretched it out to an 8-point lead, largest lead so far in this game. And look at the comparison between wins and losses. 2 different directions, Christy, for this Vanderbilt program.
Absolutely, and we can look at the points per game. But when you're giving up that many extra possessions to your opponents, it's tough to hang into games. You almost have to shoot perfectly when you're going to give up that much of a differential in terms of rebounds. And then when you throw in the turnover differential as well, I mean, you're giving the opponents almost 18 extra possessions in your losses than in your wins.
Floater in the lane, drops for Harbison, and she will go to the free throw line.
Kaja Harbison's just so good when she can get downhill. The hesitation, the crossover, gets into the post body. And I mean, I can't say enough just about her own body control, her ability to elevate after the contact and still have the great soft touch.
Harbison described by Shea Ralph, who says she came in with the expectation of a certain role and now a completely different role based on the injuries. Lead down to 5 for Texas A&M. Patty picked up her second, so that makes it now 4 Aggies in this game with 2 fouls. Mackenzie Green, her first action off the bench for Joni Taylor. And they're going to call a traveling against Hilton. That'll be the 8th turnover for the Aggies.
Vanderbilt plays so hard, and Joni Taylor told us that. She goes, I expect their best shot because they're so well coached. They play so hard. But what I am seeing is just a new effort on the defensive end by Vanderbilt. They're so active and disruptive right now.
See the foul trouble building up for the Aggies, and that has breathed new life into Vanderbilt in the form of Harbison, who has been taking this team on her back. 12 points, 4 of 7 shooting on the floor for the St. Louis transfer.
Well, Joni Taylor told us she was really worried about Harbison in the pinch area because so good off the bounce. And I mean, she told us last night, she goes, I'm not sure how we're going to defend the on-ball screen because I'm not sure anything's going to work against this young lady.
Steal by Harbison. She takes it, hits the deck hard, will go to the free throw line.
Harbison's so good in the open floor, just pushes the ball ahead of herself so she can get ahead of the defenders, and there's nothing there that Erin Kinder could do except foul her and make her convert from the free throw line.
So here's what Harbison has done to this point. 12 points on 4 of 7 shooting. Shea Ralph said we need to have option 2 and 3 to help out Harbison. That hasn't been the case here, Christy, but what do you make of the fact that they're only down by 2?
I think it's great. What I see right now is the foul trouble is affecting Texas A&M. The trapping defenses of Vanderbilt is affecting Texas A&M. And what what Vanderbilt is doing is just being patient. Now the key will be where's the offense going to come from now that Harbison is going to the bench.
Harbison taking a rest, having made her own 7-0 run for Vanderbilt to get them within 1. By the way, Kindred picked up her second, so that now has 5 Aggies with 2 fouls in this game.
Well, and I got to believe Harbison, despite the fact that she is so hot, this is knowing the media breaks coming up at under 5. Shea Ralph just trying to get Harbison a little bit of extra blow.
That's back-to-back turnovers for Texas A&M, who has now 10 turnovers in this first half.
And that's been an issue for the Aggies throughout the SEC season. Their opponents are averaging almost 19 points a game off of those miscues. They've got to take care of the basketball.
Gerard has been quiet, just 2 points off the mark on that attempt. And the ball back to Texas A&M. 9 points off of 10 turnovers for Vanderbilt. It's been a reason why they're only down by 1 at this stage.
I mean, think about that stat. 9 points off of the turnovers and then 11 points from the free throw line. That's a combination of 20 of their 24 points in the game.
Hilton at the point. Off the wing to Green. Now a double team comes in the trap. Hilton trying to look down low. Finds Jada Malone. You can count that and the foul for the sophomore.
So, John, the couple of times that Texas A&M has reversed the ball out of those traps, they've been able to score. They just can't allow the ball to stick. This time, Hilton finds Malone down low. Just great hands, body control by Malone to get the foul and finish.
completes the three-point play. Malone back for her sophomore campaign after leading all freshmen in points per game, rebounds, and minutes per last season. 28-24, Texas A&M on top of Vanderbilt. Dores still looking for their first conference win of the season. Gerard looking for some help. Chambers has had a quiet first half. Spin move and the nice finish with the right hand.
And I love that Chambers got the ball at the high post. Knowing she's undersized, allowed her to become a guard, basically. She faced up, took the slower Malone off the bounce to get to the rim.
Chambers, the senior out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, with her first 2 points of the game. Gets Vanderbilt back within 2. Malone to Kindred. Too strong on the jumper. Chambers there on the rebounds. Bella LaChance, 21 in gold for Vanderbilt, getting some quality minutes in this first half. Gerard launches from 3, and Vanderbilt has climbed all the way back to take a 1-point lead.
Well, on the season for Gerard, she has been that consistent three-point shooter for Vanderbilt. Had missed her first couple, that time knocks it down.
Her 58 made threes, Christie #1 in the SEC. That one vital to give Vanderbilt their first lead of the game. Whistle on the floor takes us to a timeout. What a game we're seeing in this first half. Vanderbilt, led by the likes of Chambers and company, have a 1-point lead on the Aggies.
Hey, Steffi. Yeah, I right now I think as long as it's close, she rides it. I'm not surprised right now by any of this from Texas A&M because this is a new season for them. We've talked about so much. Only 7 players for the better part of SEC season. Now it's these 10 players learning to play together. So right now, if I'm Joni Taylor, yeah, Steffi, I'm going to leave her on the bench. As long as this stays close, get this team regrouped at halftime, but only if they can keep it close.
It is remarkable to think that a team like Texas A&M fought their way through a great deal of the SEC conference schedule with only 7 players, and today a luxury for Joni Taylor with 10 players back, including Zahara Jones, Hilton, and Barker, who are both back for a second straight game. And this game has some meaning to it. Both these teams want to get out of the bottom 4 of the SEC standings. They don't want to play in the first round of the SEC tournament as they did a season ago.
I mean, John, you've hit it on the head. It makes it very difficult to try to win the tournament when you're playing for 4 straight days. And I think, I mean, we can talk about March and the SEC tournament, but right now, Vanderbilt just wants that first SEC win. Texas A&M just wants that first road win of the season.
Here's the middle to bottom portion of the standings. You've also got Auburn at 2-6, Kentucky at 1-7, occupying those 4 spots. And Florida there, that was the last game that Vanderbilt played, and that was a game that even Coach Ralph had to scratch her head a little bit on the performance, primarily based on the fatigue, because when you're playing with 8 active players, at some point, fatigue is going to set in for a team like this.
Absolutely, and I don't think anyone can understand what 3 games in 6 days, how difficult that is. And we can talk physical, I think mental as well. And for Shea Ralph, 2 of those games were on the road. At Arkansas on Monday, and then obviously the end of the week at Florida. Makes for a really difficult week.
Yeah, 3 games in a 7-day stretch. That Arkansas game for Shea Ralph and company was just a backbreaker in terms of losing it at the buzzer on a half-court shot. Meanwhile, for Texas A&M, you've got 6 players with 2 fouls. You've got Jada Malone, the sophomore, who on that last possession picked up her 3rd foul. And yet they only trailed by 1 with under 3 minutes to go in the first half.
And you see Barker back on the floor for the Aggies.
Kindred. And Washington comes down with it. Vanderbilt currently on a 12-3 run. They've been hot as of late. Washington left alone for 3, nothing but net. And Vanderbilt has stretched it out to a 4-point lead.
So if I'm Texas A&M, once I get the ball into the half court, I would like to see Barker get the touch, maybe in the high post. Let her be a facilitator, a passer, because I'm sure she's going to attract a lot of attention.
Missed opportunity on the offensive side for the Aggies, and they give it right back to Vanderbilt. College basketball doubleheader for Wednesday night right here on the SEC Network and available on the ESPN app. Wendell Green Jr. and number 15 Auburn against Terry Roberts in Georgia at 7 Eastern. And then KJ Williams and LSU taking on Kobe Brown and Missouri. 2 great games, some of the conference's top teams that we are going to see in action. And an over-the-back call gives it right back to the Doors here with 1:49 left to go in the first half.
So Hilton's been able to get to the rim the last 2 possessions but not convert. And then, as we've seen a couple of times now in this first half, Texas A&M get called for a rebounding foul.
Aggies have committed 11 turnovers. They average 18 on the season. Kindred with the foul. That'll be her 3rd. So her and Malone each with 3. And again, so dangerous because for Vanderbilt, one of their strengths this year has been their free throw shooting. 73% as a team, which ranks 2nd in the conference.
But what did Shea Ralph say? We're getting to the free throw line, but we need to make more of them. Now, that's a coach who understands a margin of error. Yes, they've been good. She expects them to be better.
That just tells you someone who played under and coached under Gino Auriemma. Never satisfied is Shea Ralph. And the fouls have been an issue so far in this first half. 18 per game they averaged as Texas A&M, already with 15, with a couple of players with 3. Barker in and out, still looking for her first 2 points of the game. Harbison in a flash. What a motor she has as one of the floor generals.
Well, and that's a veteran move. She realizes no one ever stopped her in transition, so she just kept going all the way to the rim.
A 19-3 run now in over 6 minutes for Vanderbilt. Has built up a 36-28 lead on the Aggies.
Kaja Harbison gets the rebound. She's scanning. She's looking for someone to pass to, but realizes no one's stopping me, and this is a scorer. This is a playmaker. I'm just going to take it all the way by myself.
No player for Texas A&M in double figures. Patty has 9 on the bench with 2 fouls. As they try to work it inside to Barker, called for the foul was Chambers.
Yeah, that's just not a smart foul by Chambers. That far away from the basket. I know she was going for the steal, but sometimes you just got to let things go.
Barker to the free throw line, the only player for Texas A&M averaging double figures on the season as the first one drops. I thought it was interesting hearing from her high school coach at Mount Verde Academy, describing her, Christy, as one of those 2K players in a video game, the ones that you create. That's how high she was on her skill set level.
Well, there's been nothing but buzz about Janiah Barker's game ever since she had originally signed with Joni Taylor and staff at UGA and then made the decision to follow them to Texas A&M. This is a young lady who is nothing but spectacular. Her personality is dynamic. Her game is dynamic.
The highest recruit in Texas A&M program history. About a 7-second difference between game clock and shot clock. Jones, off balance three. Fight for it underneath the basket. As Barker slow to get up. Washington called for the foul. That'll be her second. And you notice the brace there on her hand for Barker on the shooting hand where she suffered that wrist injury versus Kansas back on November 30th. Did not go the route of surgery. And yet it's remarkable to see what she was able to do against Georgia.
Absolutely. I mean, this was a very meticulous recovery process for Barker. Every 2 weeks, she was getting an x-ray. They wanted to make sure it was healing properly. As long as it was showing improvement, they weren't going to do surgery. And remarkably enough, I mean, first of all, hats off to the doctors and the medical team at Texas A&M for getting this young lady back. But you're already seeing the effect that Barker has on her team. It's not just the points. It's the rebounding. It's the defense. It's the length. It's the ability to facilitate through this young lady that makes this team so much better.
Texas A&M has gone over 5 minutes without a made field goal. Down by 6, make it 8. Harbison has just been on fire in this game. 18 points on 6 of 9 shooting. And the first half comes to a close. Shea Ralph, you can see, coming all the way to her players.